You've probably met someone who just gets it. They don't need you to explain yourself. They already feel what you're going through before you finish the sentence. They read the room the moment they walk in. They know when something is wrong, even when you say nothing. And the strange part? They often don't even realize they're doing it. Emotional intelligence is one of the most studied and most misunderstood forces in human psychology. Most people think it simply means being kind or sensitive, but psychologists define it as something far more complex, a multi-layered cognitive and emotional system that shapes how you perceive, process, and respond to the emotional world around you. And people with extremely high emotional intelligence don't just feel more, they operate differently. Their brains are wired to pick up signals that most people completely miss. Today, we're going to look at 10 signs that reveal an extraordinarily high level of emotional intelligence. Signs that are often mistaken for weakness, overthinking, or being too sensitive. If several of these feel uncomfortably familiar, pay attention. Your mind may be working on a level you've never fully given yourself credit for. Sign 1. You feel other people's emotions in your own body. Most people understand emotions intellectually. People with extremely high emotional intelligence feel them physically. When someone near you is anxious, your chest tightens. When someone is grieving, you feel a heaviness that has no name. When there's unspoken tension in a room, your body registers it like a change in air pressure before a single word is spoken. Neuroscientists call this mirror neuron activation. Your brain doesn't just observe another person's emotional state, it simulates it internally. Research published in the journal Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience found that individuals with higher emotional intelligence show significantly stronger mirror neuron responses, meaning they are neurologically wired to feel what others feel. This isn't weakness. This is an advanced biological system for reading human reality. Sign 2. You process before you respond. End. It looks like silence. In a world that rewards fast answers, people with extremely high E often pause. Not because they don't know what to say, but because they are simultaneously processing their own emotional reaction, reading the other person's emotional state, considering how their words will land, and choosing a response that actually serves the moment, rather than just releasing their own tension. Psychologists call this emotional regulation, the ability to manage your own internal state before acting on it. Dr. James Gross at Stanford University identified this as one of the highest markers of psychological maturity. Most people respond from their emotions. People with high EQ respond to their emotions. That pause you thought was hesitation? It's actually precision. Sign 3. You notice what people don't say. The average person listens to words. Someone with extremely high emotional intelligence listens to everything else. The slight change in tone. The smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The answer that comes a half second too fast. The topic that gets changed just as it was getting real. Psychology research on nonverbal communication, pioneered by Dr. Paul Ekman, shows that over 70% of emotional information is transmitted not through words, but through micro-expressions, body posture, vocal tone, and timing. Most people miss the majority of these signals. People with high EQ unconsciously decode them in real time. You don't just hear what someone said, you hear what they meant, what they were afraid to say, and sometimes what they don't even know they're communicating. Now here's what most people get completely wrong about emotional intelligence. We tend to think high EQ means being agreeable, easy to be around, always calm. But some of the most emotionally intelligent people on earth are also the most misunderstood, because their emotional depth creates experiences that others simply cannot see. Let's continue. Sign 4. You replay conversations, searching for what you missed. Hours after a conversation ends, your brain returns to it. Not because you're anxious, but because your emotional processing system is still working, reviewing tone, scanning for misalignment between what was said and what was felt, and quietly asking, did I really understand them? Did they really understand me? Research in cognitive psychology describes this as post-event processing, a feature of minds that are deeply invested in social and emotional accuracy. In people with high EQ, this is not rumination, it is refinement. Your brain is collecting data about human behavior and filing it for future understanding. The world calls it overthinking. Psychology calls it deep social processing. Sign 5, you feel deeply drained after social interactions, even good ones. People assume that emotional sensitivity makes you more social. The opposite is often true. When you are absorbing the emotional frequencies of everyone in a room, processing their states, regulating your own responses, and managing the invisible emotional architecture of every interaction, your brain is doing extraordinary work. A study from the University of Michigan found that high-EQ individuals expend significantly more cognitive and emotional resources in social settings than average. The exhaustion you feel after a gathering isn't antisocial. It is the natural result of an emotional nervous system running at full capacity. You weren't drained because something went wrong. You were drained because your brain never stopped working. Sign 6, you set boundaries, but you feel guilty about them. People with extremely high emotional intelligence understand others so deeply that saying no becomes one of the most difficult things they do. Because when someone asks you for something, you don't just hear the request. You feel the need behind it, the loneliness, the fear, the hope. And then you have to choose between honoring your own limits and relieving someone else's pain. Dr. Bren Brown's research on empathy and boundaries found that the most emotionally intelligent individuals struggle most with this tension because their empathy is real, not performed. The guilt isn't weakness. It is the cost of genuinely caring about the emotional impact of your choices on other people. The guilt you feel when you say no, that's not a character flaw. That's the price of a conscience that actually works. The next 4 signs are the ones most people never expect, because they look nothing like what we call emotional intelligence. Sign 7, you ARE drawn to people who ARE hurting. You don't know why, but when someone in a room is struggling, quietly, invisibly, you find yourself moving toward them, not to fix them, not to perform kindness, but because something in you recognizes their pain before your conscious mind registers it. Your emotional radar picks up the signal and you respond. Psychologists who study prosocial behavior describe this as empathic accuracy, the ability to precisely identify another person's emotional state. Research at Berkeley found that individuals scoring highest in empathic accuracy were consistently drawn to social situations involving emotional complexity. You are not a rescuer. You are a receiver, someone whose nervous system is tuned to a frequency most people cannot hear. Sign 8, you struggle when your environment has negative energy. Walk into a room after an argument happened, even if it's over, even if no one mentions it. You feel it. Sit next to someone who is silently furious. You feel that too, even if they say nothing, even if they smile. This is not imagination. Environmental psychology research confirms that emotional residue, the lingering psychological atmosphere left by emotional events, is detectable by individuals with high emotional sensitivity. Your nervous system reads the room the way a seismograph reads the earth. Small tremors that others ignore register clearly to you. This is why toxic environments affect you more than others. And why finding calm, authentic spaces isn't a preference, it's a neurological need. Sign 9, you forgive, but you remember everything. People with extremely high emotional intelligence have a sophisticated relationship with forgiveness. You let go of the anger. You genuinely release the need for revenge or resentment. You move forward. But your emotional memory, what psychologists call affective memory, is precise. You remember how things felt, the exact tone, the specific moment trust shifted. Not to punish, but because your brain stores emotional data as a protection system, a pattern library that helps you understand people more accurately over time. You forgave them, and you also learned from them. Both can be true. Both are signs of an emotionally intelligent mind. Sign 10. You often feel things you cannot explain. Sometimes there is no word for what you feel. It's not sadness exactly, not anxiety, not joy. It's something layered, complex, in between. An emotional state that doesn't fit neatly into the vocabulary you were given. Psychologist Lisa Feldman Barrett, in her theory of constructed emotion, argues that emotionally sophisticated individuals experience a wider range of emotional granularity. They feel more distinctions, more nuance, more complexity than average. The result is an inner world that is extraordinarily rich but sometimes difficult to translate into words that others can follow. You're not broken because you feel things that don't have names. You feel things that most people haven't developed the emotional vocabulary to recognize yet. Now consider something for a moment. Every sign we've discussed tonight, the physical empathy, the silence before speaking, the replayed conversations, the exhaustion, the guilt, the forgiveness, the wordless feelings, these are not flaws waiting to be corrected. They are the signature of a mind that takes the inner world of human beings seriously. In a world that moves fast, speaks loud, and rewards certainty, people with extremely high emotional intelligence often feel like they are too much, too sensitive, too deep, too slow. But psychology tells us something different. It tells us that the capacity to feel deeply, to read accurately, to regulate consciously, and to connect genuinely, these are among the rarest and most sophisticated functions the human mind is capable of. You were never too sensitive. You were always just operating on a frequency most people haven't learned to hear. If this felt like you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to understand your mind at a deeper level, this channel exists for exactly that. Subscribe to Psychology Enigma. New videos every week, because your mind deserves to be understood.